conference, the Big Think. And we're really pleased that Jane Burton and Amanda Harrison are going to talk about their experiences at the AASL National Conference and give you some pointers about attending your first event. So, welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Probably my voice will be strange because I've just listened all morning.
Well, welcome. It feels like this was forever ago, but I guess it wasn't really. And we can begin.
Okay, started talking about how maybe everybody has a bucket list. And one of my bucket list items was to attend a national convention.
And it's definitely worth writing on your bucket list because it was big and huge and amazing.
Definitely. So Amanda and I were recipients of grants to allow us to attend the AASL National Convention, which was held in Louisville in November of last year. So this is going to show you some of the things we saw there, and we'll talk about it a little bit.
So there are a ton of guest speakers. And just, big names that you probably already heard of. So Ellen O from We Need Diverse Books was one of the speakers that spoke to the convention as a whole. And she kind of gave some insight into books as windows, books as doors, and books as mirrors. So anything great that you remember from her, Jane?
She just really focused on the diversity and teaching empathy. So that really is, ever since we went there, it's just showed up more and more in the media. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how much, the national conferences, they have to be organized so far in advance because they're just so big. But I felt like everything that they talked about, I just kept hearing. So as soon as we went, when we came back, yeah, you're right. It was like everyone was talking about that. So it felt like I kind of knew a little more of the background of it.
So Jarrett was another speaker, and one thing after listening to him, and he talked about his childhood and growing up and the importance of certain people in his life. And because of his books, the first Friday in May has been designated as School Lunch Lady Day. So I had totally prepared for our school to do a big project on that, but you all know what happened. So we didn't really get to do that. Although we did, our school did do lunches that the students could come pick up. And so the cooks were noticed a little bit, just not in the way I had expected it to go.
Yes. Dr. Adolph Brown is just a renowned educator, and I don't even know how I would describe this this talk, but it's probably in the talks I've heard at big events. I mean, it's probably one of the top, if not the top one. I don't even know how to describe it.
And before we went into that session, I saw him walking around, and I was curious as to who that person was because I hadn't seen him at any other time during the conference. So then here he comes up on the stage, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But I remember one thing that he really emphasized was how essential preschool education is. And again, I think Kansas is really focusing on that a lot. So just another example of how what AASL planned goes right out with everything else happening.
Yeah, and I love that it was so much of what we heard at the convention was very school library focused, which is awesome. I loved it. But it was good to have that kind of connection with the educator too, because he really was able to um, merge the two together, I thought, to, the teaching role and the library role. So we got to learn more about the AASL standards. So pretty much everything that was on like the regular convention schedule was organized by standard. So, you kind of had a sense of like, there was also the topics, of course, of what you're talking about, but they were all focused on like how to teach specific standards.
And one thing I picked up on that was in your English classes, if they're teaching the Scarlet Letter, well, bring it into today's world and compare what happened to the shamings that occur on social media, the kids that get bullied on social media. And I really enjoyed making that connection.
I didn't go to that session, so I'm learning right now. So, I feel like just going, I had a lot better idea of, just reflecting on my own practice of what I was teaching students and what, what is recommended. And so it was good for not just getting new ideas, but also kind of reflecting on here's ways that I could take what I'm already doing and make it better or make it more inclusive for all students.
I don't know if I have anything to add, but so exciting to meet and see so many famous authors. So I'm not a good photographer, but I stuck a few pictures in on some of those things.
You did a great job of remembering to take pictures. I think I took maybe 3. I don't know. I didn't think of it. I was so excited to see so many people. And one thing I would say, if you're planning to go to AASL or probably even any national convention, is that there were like the official people that AASL brought, but then there was all these other people. Like some of them had come because vendors had asked them. Some of them were just, I think, there for fun. Some of them were there. So there were all these different schedules. And I have to admit, I got a little overwhelmed with just trying to figure out what was happening when. And there was always so many different things you could do. You could have spent the entire day just talking to famous authors probably and getting signatures.
Yes. And I guess you just have to resign yourself to you're not going to get to do everything. It would be impossible.
Yeah.
I took this picture because she is so popular at our school, and I thought the kids would enjoy me getting a picture of her. Just another author.
Yeah, and it was nice because there were definitely some times where it was kind of more of like a prescripted thing. So like I didn't go to this one, but after L&O spoke in the general session, I got to go see her kind of talk to more of like a small group. And so it was just kind of nice to see them in different settings, more of a formal presentation and then just more of a Q&A kind of conversation. So this was a vendor hall, and again, like all the big name vendors were there, showing off just everything they had, and lots of them were giving stuff away, and it was a lot of stuff to do and see and people to talk to.
And on the giveaways, they were really prepared for us to collect a lot because they had mailer boxes right there so that when you got a whole bunch of freebies, you could just put it in a mailer and have it sent home, because Amanda and I flew in, so we were kind of concerned about how we were going to bring things home with us.
Yeah. And I did mail quite a bit back. This is the Idea Lab. So there were big sessions, of course, you know, like you would think of as a traditional conference. But this Idea Lab was kind of fun because it was just a big, huge open auditorium room. And everyone was set up in tables all the way around the room. And you could just go up and they would give you a 10-minute spiel on all these different things. So if you were interested in creating a summer open library program in your school, you just go up and listen to their thing. And they had a ton of giveaways. And that was just, it was nice because it was just little bite-sized stuff that you could almost take and go and use in your library right away.
This was an evening activity they had. It was called Symposiums of the Greats. And I don't know, they just really wanted school librarians to become very visible and to remember that we are indispensable in our schools. And when we are visible, that becomes apparent.
So here's some of the Kansas group. I don't think we got everybody in this picture, but it was hard to keep track of everyone.
Impossible to all get together.
But that was kind of fun. And just having a chance to just kind of talk with Kansas librarians and just chat was nice. Especially, I don't know, it maybe feels a little nostalgic now. Like, oh, look, we were all eating dinner in a restaurant together. But it was nice.
Now I'm a foodie addict, so and I have a daughter-in-law who enjoys food presentations. So this picture was probably for her, but at one of the evening sessions that I think there were 6 authors there, but they included a light meal, but you can see it was a plate full and very well presented. Small town person here.
Well, and I think this was one of those ones that filled up really quickly. So
Yes.
it was important to, if you thought you wanted to do something, was to jump on it, because I think I tried to sign up for this and I missed it, but that's okay.
One thing that I feel I didn't do a very good job is preparing to go to another city ahead of time, because there were a lot of attractions. Luckily, close to our hotel, there was this little shop. And so I just kind of went in there, walking from the hotel to the center. Interesting tidbit.
Yeah, and there were, I think the day before even, they had prepared stuff where, you know, if you wanted to go tour the Kentucky Derby with other librarians, or you wanted to go, I think they had some of the school libraries in Louisville that were, you know, prepared for visitors. So, you know, I just went and kind of got there right before it started and came back right when it was done. But you could definitely have taken more time and done things with the conference. There's just our street. Was this just down the street too, Jane? I didn't go to this one.
In a visitor's center.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was at the airport. Some of my pictures I took are actually for my grandkids' benefit, so they were excited to see the racehorse. So when I was making this presentation, it was going to be presented at our district meeting. I said that I thought, I mean, I had the bucket list, but I really feel like this was the year I was supposed to attend the national convention. based on my granddaughter. This is Anika. Anika is half Filipino. And one day she started kindergarten, and she came to me and she said, "Grandma, how come you don't have any books about me in your library like you do Tegan?" And Tegan is her little cousin who is not Filipino. And I said, "I don't have books about Tegan in my library." And she said, "Yes, you do." So she took me over to the shelf, and if we switch to the next slide, she showed me this book. Well, I have to admit, this book is not checked out a lot in our library, but it's right on the end of the shelving. And as you look at the next slide, this is Tegan. And when she was at, actually this picture is about 2 years later, but when she was that age, she looked exactly like that little girl on the ADD book. So I realized from my granddaughter that, oh, having books of diverse cultures in the library is really important. Anika is the only Filipino girl in our school. And I did not realize how much she noticed something like that. There were no books about anybody like her, but I had lots of books like her cousins. So the conference really, really struck home with me because of that.
So the future conference dates are set, and so like right now, the next one's planned for 2021. Cross your fingers, in October in Salt Lake City, Utah. So
it's over.
What's that?
So that's over now. It's October 29th. Oh, 2021. Sorry.
2021, yeah, because it's only every 2 years.
Yes, I forgot.
So definitely be thinking about like what kind of grant opportunities can fund your trip, because they can add up. Because obviously, you have to get there, and then, if you want to stay near the conference in the conference hotel, it is going to be a little pricey. But of course, thank you to KASL for selecting us to receive the AASL National Conference Award. So that award will come up again for the next conference. So I encourage you to apply. You can also look, there is, at least there has been the past couple of years, a first-time national conference attendees grant directly from AASL, and that I looked on their website and they don't have it up yet, but it does come up really early in the year. So I would maybe look for that in the spring. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have it up already. And if they do it the way they did in the past, I did apply at one point and did not receive it, but it was, the writing on my end was not extensive, but I did have to have a letter from my principal as well. So just a heads up about that. And if you're feeling really ambitious, I just saw this come up this week, but they are seeking for proposals for the conference. So, if you're ready to go and ready to present, they are looking for people not just for concurrent sessions, but also for the idea lab. So if you have a great idea, try it out.
And I would just suggest that if you're going to go, more preparation is better. For one thing, if you're going, the sooner you book hotels and flights, the cheaper you can get them. We found out prices changed as it got closer to the day, especially on the hotel, I think. And also the ALA magazine had extensive articles in it to help you prepare for attending. It gave some overviews of sessions that would be held, and you could see which ones you wanted to go to. There was also a first timers breakfast that they hosted that they gave you some suggestions on things to help make your conference activities go smoothly. Just the more you can do ahead of time, the better, to make your whole thing not so overwhelming.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that reminded me that the registration prices change like ridiculously, like the closer you get. So if you are an early bird registration, you get a much, much cheaper rate. And also if you are a student right now, go, because it is much cheaper as a student to go to the conference. So take your chance now while you're still on the low rate.
That helps.
Any questions? I can't see the chat. Does anybody that sees the chat see any questions?
Nope, I don't see any.
I don't see anything, Amanda, right now.
All right, well,
Short and sweet.
guess so. All right. Stop.
Thank you.
Martha,
Thank you.
I want to
Thank
thank
you for
you
the month.
for all the work you've done preparing for this whole shmew of things today. It was a big project and I think it went really well. I think everything was easy to get to.
Good. A lot of people, a lot of moving pieces on it. I just is a
Yes.
very tiny cog. So
Well, you helped.
yeah, I did a little tiny bit. Yeah, Megan is kind of a genius, and I can't think of a better KLA person to have had to deal with this, because she's really good at thinking outside the box and technology, and she was a great leader during all this prep time. Well, I think I'll put my little screensaver back up. Our next session is the William Allen White announcements at 3 in this room. So don't miss that. And I'll go ahead and put the EBSCO screensaver back up because they have supported this conference. The conference, last I heard, had raised about $7,000 in vendor fees. So I found that very